Is the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Hice, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today on behalf of the American taxpayer to clarify that the federal workforce exists to serve them, not the other way around. During the COVID pandemic, Americans faced uncertainties as businesses literally struggled to survive. But while these Americans wondered whether or not they would receive the next paycheck, there was one group, federal employees, who did not face these type of concerns. To the contrary, since President Biden took office, there's been a nonstop effort to ensure that the federal workers are treated like a protected, privileged class. Democrats like to talk about the need to rehabilitate federal workers after the Trump administration's so-called war on civil service, but that's absolutely ridiculous. Their road, the Democrats' road to recovery, apparently includes shielding government workers, workers whose positions exist to serve the American people. But Democrats want to shield government workers from accountability, from any concern of discipline, from the obligation to actually perform the duties that they were hired to do, and from their duty to serve the elected representatives of the people. But guess what? Despite the claims of trauma during the Trump administration, federal workers were happier during his time in office. And why? Simply because the federal workers were held accountable. Let's face it, no one likes working in a situation where you can't do anything about poor performers, where you can't do anything regarding people who simply refuse to actually do their jobs. And the consequences of that type of environment is that the actual conscientious workers have to pick up the slack, which only adds, of course, to their own workloads, and it creates an extremely toxic work environment. But nevertheless, Democrats want to continue the false narrative of an abused federal workforce. They want to curry favor with the core union constituency by looking for as many ways as possible to increase pay and benefits, all under the name of making the federal government a model employer. But look, model employers hold their workforce accountable. Model employers put the customer first, in this case, the American taxpayer. But we don't hear any of this from the Democrats, but you do from the Republicans. So today, along with a number of my Republican colleagues, I'm introducing the Accountable Federal Employees Act, which codifies a suite of executive orders that President Trump issued, but unfortunately, President Biden has repealed. This bill includes a number of common sense provisions, such as it makes sure federal employees actually do their jobs rather than spend time on union activities. It makes sure that poor performers are held accountable. That's something even federal employees say is sorely lacking in the workplace. This bill creates a process to ensure collective bargaining agreements are negotiated in a timely manner and in a way that looks out for the best interest of the American taxpayer. It also makes sure that federal employees in policy-making roles actually work to help implement the policies of the people who are actually elected to office. So this bill represents a platform of sanity and fairness in the civil policy and in the workforce of the federal government. And frankly, any serious effort to modernize the federal workforce has to start with ensuring the best possible level of service for the American people. And that's what this bill does. And I urge my colleagues to join me in this effort. And with that, I yield back.